When a traumatized child enters a classroom, distress rarely looks like sadness. Instead, it manifests at the extremes: sudden, explosive aggression or severe, unreachable withdrawal. Standard classroom management techniques fail here because they treat these actions as arbitrary discipline issues. They address the behavioral output while bypassing the fractured internal mechanism causing it. To intervene effectively, educators must shift to a diagnostic approach, using socio-emotional developmental theories to analyze the internal mechanics behind the outward behavior. By passing a child's classroom symptoms through 5 distinct theoretical frameworks, we can isolate the root cause of the behavior and engineer highly precise, targeted therapeutic strategies. Targeted diagnostic mapping provides a structural framework for socio-emotional recovery that reactive discipline cannot achieve on its own. We start at the baseline of a child's psychological development with John Bowlby's attachment theory. This serves as the primary diagnostic lens for assessing foundational trust. Bowlby identified the concept of insecure attachment. When a child experiences domestic neglect or trauma, their baseline assumption changes. They see adults and their surrounding environment as inherently unsafe. Consider a 4-year-old student named Adam. In the classroom, he pushes peers away, refuses group activities, and yells when the teacher approaches. This animated diagram illustrates what is happening beneath the aggression. Adam's behavior is a direct symptom of a severed psychological tether. He lacks a secure base, a reliable adult connection that makes the world feel safe to navigate. The educator has to consciously position themselves as the new secure base, deliberately initiating a safe connection pathway to replace the one broken at home. One physical strategy to achieve this is mirroring. The teacher softly copies the child's nonverbal movements. This bypasses the need for verbal instruction, quietly rebuilding baseline trust without triggering the child's defensive resistance. Once baseline trust is initiated, we look at the internal emotional fallout using Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory. Erikson mapped human development into stages. For preschool-age children, the critical developmental stage is initiative versus guilt. This is the period where they must learn to explore and interact with purpose. Observing domestic violence stalls this stage. The trauma inhibits the child's drive for initiative, leading to a pervasive sense of guilt, fear, and low self-esteem. The targeted strategy here moves away from direct questioning. Educators utilize play therapy and directed art activities to allow the child to process complex emotions safely, without the burden of having to articulate their trauma verbally. These micro-level interventions establish the foundational stability required for any subsequent academic success. With individual stabilization underway, we shift our altitude to social integration. Here, Albert Bandura's social learning theory becomes our primary diagnostic tool. Take the case of Ina, a young student experiencing severe withdrawal and emotional fragility following her parents' divorce. This node network shows the core mechanism of Bandura's theory. Children do not learn emotional regulation in a vacuum. They acquire it by directly observing and imitating the adult models in their environment. To counter Ina's emotional fragility, the teacher deliberately overprojects a calm, patient, and warm demeanor. The teacher becomes a functional emotional anchor, transmitting the mechanics of regulation for Ina to imitate. To expand this integration from adult modeling to peer interaction, we apply Lev Vygotsky's sociocultural theory. Vygotsky introduced the concept of scaffolding, a temporary, phased support system provided by an adult to help a child reach the next developmental milestone. While often used for academic instruction, scaffolding is highly effective for behavioral and social recovery. For a completely withdrawn child, the educator scaffolds social interaction by integrating them into highly controlled small group activities with heavy initial teacher mediation. The crucial final step of this strategy is the deliberate, phased removal of the adult mediation. As the child gains internal social confidence, the scaffolding is withdrawn, leaving a self-supporting social structure. Foundational theories stabilize the individual psyche, but these social learning frameworks are required to successfully reintegrate the traumatized child back into a functional classroom ecosystem. Finally, we scale our diagnostic lens up to macro-level trauma, using Yuri Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory. Let's examine an older student, 10-year-old Adam. Formerly active, he suddenly exhibits academic decline, aggression toward peers, and severe anxiety the moment the school dismissal bell rings. Bronfenbrenner's model maps a child's environment in concentric circles. The innermost ring is the microsystem, the immediate home environment. In Adam's case, this baseline of stability is experiencing active domestic violence and a bitter divorce. We expand the analysis to the exosystem, environments the child does not directly interact with, but which exert massive pressure. Here, Adam's father has lost his job, creating financial ruin. These external pressures in the exosystem trigger a catastrophic structural collapse within the microsystem. The damage travels inward, manifesting as severe classroom trauma in the child at the center. Classroom disciplinary tactics are entirely useless here. A timeout cannot repair a multi-system ecological collapse. The required point of intervention is the mesosystem. This is the crucial connective bridge that links the child's home environment directly to the school. The educator engineers a structural bridge by organizing a three-way meeting involving the teacher, the school counselor, and the parents. The tactic during this meeting is highly specific. Instead of complaining about Adam's misbehavior, the teacher presents objective data mapping his recent emotional shifts. This forces parental awareness of how their systemic conflict is impacting the child's psychology. Diagnosing trauma at an ecological level allows the educator to address the structural collapse of the child's environment alongside the classroom symptoms. We have constructed a unified diagnostic toolkit. Bowlby, Erickson, Bandura, Vygotsky, and Bronfenbrenner provides distinct lenses, mapping directly to specific classroom strategies. These frameworks are not competing psychological theories. They are complementary tools designed to function at different, precise altitudes of a child's life. Effective intervention requires the teacher to align the specific behavioral symptom with its corresponding developmental altitude, whether they are building a secure base or repairing a systemic gap. Mastery of these theoretical frameworks is a core component of trauma-informed practice, providing the diagnostic clarity needed for genuine healing. Professional excellence in the modern classroom is defined by the capacity to analyze and restore the complex architecture of a child's developing mind.